Hey, good morning, guys. I thought it would be time to talk. Let's talk. So this is my third day of no soda, and I am actually feeling like I can think a little more clear. My body is already feeling better, and the only problem I'm having is it's the caffeine withdrawal. So I had a migraine this morning too. I took some Advil, and I should be all set after the third day. They say this is the hardest. But anyways, I want to share something. This is a gas card I had been given from a friend before I left New Hampshire. This couple wanted to give me gas cards to make sure that I made it, over to where I needed to be in Colorado safely with plenty of gas. So I had planned on going back to New Hampshire a little sooner, and then my car broke. But as things worked out, I realized, you know what, I need to stay here even longer, get a better rental reference, and it's just not time yet. So I'm holding on to this card, and this card was the card that I gave my husband before I left because I said, well, he was kind of low on gas, and I said, take this card. And he's like, okay. So he took it, and then I'm like, well, wait a minute, I might need it because I might not have planned my gas enough. So he's like, you Indian giver. And we kidded about this, and I knew this was the last time that I would see him before I left. The night before, he's like, let's go on a motorcycle ride. And I'm like, well, my work just called, someone called in sick, and they offered me work, and I should take it in case when I get to Colorado, I need the money. So I worked that, no, that was like, no, that was like 2 nights before. And then I had the night before to be with him, and he's like, oh, I'm going off with Matt to go to the bank in Manchester. He needs a ride. And I'm like, what? I'm like, you never do that. You hate Manchester. All through the years when we were together, he hated Manchester and would not even drive to Manchester half the time for me. So I'm like, so this was kind of weird. And so I saw this coming before it actually did come. And before that, we were in storage, and my son didn't want his drums anymore. So I'm like, okay, take the drums, and then you can just, give him back the money that he paid for him. So when we were in storage, I could kind of feel that his focus was on just getting the drums and not even really, caring about us as we were moving stuff. I could feel it. Whoa, hold on. Let me shut this. So as this was happening, my son's off to work. So as this was happening, I could feel that something was going on with him. This is before I even said I was going to Colorado. We were in a hotel. We had split up the storage. He had his stuff. I had my stuff. I still have storage in New Hampshire. And he was getting, I saw him checking out other women. And I'm like, hey, this was at the bank. What the heck? And so he was just going down way before. And, I had tried to get hotels, and, a couple times he wanted me to stay, and I wanted to get back to my hotel because things were just kind of, he was kind of up and down still. When we were living together, he's like, I'm sorry. And then he'd scream again at me, I'm sorry. I remember one job where the bosses I had worked for years ago at Eagle Court, he had thrown a knife at me years ago, and you could get away with this, and it missed me, and it hit the dishwashing area. And so later on at the lobster pool, lobster house, I worked for him again, and he was the same old Greg, same old Greg. He died, I heard, but he was a drinker, and so he still had his temper. Last time I had worked for him, I put up with it. I was a kid. I just put up with him throwing a knife at me and screaming at me. And then, whoop, I can hear the dogs. Okay. And then his wife was just like, he is so sorry. And then this time I just walked out. This time I was like, oh, he is still the same. I'm not putting up with his temper. And my husband, he had just taken a fit before I went to work. And so he was screaming his lungs out. And then when I got back home, I mentioned what happened and he starts screaming again. So I could see this coming before it actually came. But the problem I have now is, what do you do when your husband turns around and he's a user? And he turns around and tells people that you split up. I heard through the grapevine that we had split up. I didn't even know that this was how he felt. He actually had said that we had split up. And so I called him on it. And he actually said, goodbye. And it was already in his heart and everything. When we started coming to Colorado, the phone service wasn't real good, but he wasn't really contacting us when I left. I told him we were leaving. He agreed on it. I'm like, look, the kids can't be homeless. We need a place to be. I think it's best if we go live with Alex for a little while and, my son. And he's like, okay, yeah, I just wish it wasn't so far. And so on the way to Colorado, I didn't even hardly hear from him to make sure his family was okay. We got here and he was like, oh yeah, I miss you guys and I love you and everything. And then he said that he just told someone that we split up. So that's the kind of thing that happens sometimes. So when your husband runs out on you, don't feel that you need to hold on to him. Let him go. Let him make up the stories. Let him let him put some pressure on. Let him say goodbye to him and hope that he will come to his senses. Years ago, when I had a forced abortion, this guy that I was with, he had tricked me into wanting to marry him because he had said the condom was A-okay and it broke. And that emotion never got worked through. That never got worked through. I got dragged over to his house. My mother took over. I kind of stayed in the background. I was kind of quiet. I didn't really talk to him. And so decisions were made. But don't feel that you need to fix everything, because you don't. And when a man wants to leave, let him leave, because no man in his right mind will leave the woman that he loves. So that's what I got for now, guys. Just basically, bottom line, doesn't even matter if he makes up things about you with his family. If he has to use lies to get back in with his family, to use them to get what he wants, let him go. Just let him go. So I am moving on. I have more time to myself now without a man draining all my time. And I am moving forward with my life. I've got a couple things coming up I'm working on, and I'm staying pretty busy and kicking this caffeine and doing better in my life than ever. Okay, thanks for joining me, guys.